Hello, everybody, to CGI Poland and Equinix podcast Going to the Cloud. Today we have a very hot dish on a plate that is ESG, and I will have a pleasure to be the chef here hosting this episode. My name is Aleksandra Kwaśnica, and I'm Director of Consulting Services at CGI Poland. If you want to dive into information architecture, data management, regulatory projects, and of course ESG on top of that, well, then I'm your gal. Today we have two guests that will join me for cooking this ESG subject. That is Atso Andersen from CGI Finland and Adrian Mountstephens from Equinix. Gentlemen, if you could introduce yourself a bit to our listeners, that would be great.
Hi, Atso Andersen, coming from Finland. Actually, I'm senior consultant in financial services, focusing on regulatory compliance. However, in the couple of last years, I've seen the emergence of sustainability and ESG, first in finance and then across all sectors. So now I'm working with ESG data across sectors.
Great. Adrian?
Yeah, good day, everybody. It's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me on, Ola. It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Adrian Mountstephens. I work for Equinix. I'm based in the UK, but my role covers the whole of EMEA, and I sit in our business development team with a specialist focus on payments and banking. So I support that industry 100% of the time. For those who don't know Equinix, just very quickly, we're predominantly known as a data center company. We have hundreds of data centers all across the world. And importantly, all of those data centers are connected by our own network. And that network in turn is connected to the on-ramps to all of the public clouds. So you can access any public cloud in any region, anywhere in the world, by coming to Equinix and plugging into our network. And that's interesting for our discussion here when we're going to talk about moving to the cloud. Why am I here today on this podcast? Well, we're seeing a huge trend, particularly from financial services, where Equinix is being asked to help organizations to achieve sustainability goals by moving workloads from their data centers to ours, and of course, embracing public cloud at the same time. So because of that trend, I thought I'd come on here and discuss and share some of the things that we're seeing in the industry. Thanks, Ola.
Great. You've mentioned cloud, so I think that might be quite interesting in the context of today's discussion, but just maybe let's leave it for now. But to our listeners, if you are more interested in the cloud subject itself, I strongly recommend coming back to our previous podcast episodes. But moving on to ESG subject, that is environmental, social responsibility, and corporate governance. I think we can all agree that it seems it is a subject that has been almost everywhere for some time, meaning press, industry conferences, strategies of big organizations, offerings of different companies, etc. And I think in general, I have an impression that we all do feel that the launch of it is necessary and it is right. And it basically leads to a higher goal, which is common sustainability. Yeah, but to be honest, on a daily basis, for most of us, it usually means lots of challenges and questions, how it affects my business, how it affects my entire ecosystem, yeah? And all of these concerns are, of course, accompanied by time pressure as ESG is a regulatory subject. Yes, there is lots of EU legislation and deadlines behind it. And this is like not very far from now, yep. So I would like to propose a new meaning of this ESG abbreviation for the purpose of this episode. That is equally shared goal, and make here a thesis that ESG is not something that you do by yourself to contribute to an overall higher goal. Yes, it is something that you do in a cooperation with others to be able to achieve this goal. I know that the difference might seem slight, but on a bottom level, it means that you do this in totally different way than any of your previous regulatory initiatives. Yep. So within the next minutes, we'll be trying to either confirm or disprove this thesis. I would like to make this discussion rather low level than very general one, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah. Okay. So ESG, equally shared goal. Atso, you're an ESG expert, but your main focus is data, meaning sourcing, storing, extracting information from it. And you have, of course, an on-hands experience with it. So as ESG data magician, what do you see when you look into data?
Yeah, it's been amazing to see how this team develops. There's lots of discussion, lots of data, solutions, and everything around. But when you start looking closer, it is actually really complex, and the data is imperfect. We are kind of taking the first steps, really, and it's based on estimates. It's really not. It's seldom real data. It's estimate. It's calculated somehow. And of course, it's a complex issue. How to generate emissions, you have to calculate. And if you take emission data as an example, you have scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. So scope 1 being direct emissions, you could expect that it's easy to calculate your direct emissions. Already there you have to do really estimates and base that on averages today. Hopefully in the future that could be more accurate, more measured based. Scope 2 emissions, which are indirect, purchased electricity or energy, there it gets even more complex. You can use your energy bills as a basis for that data, but is that measured? No, it's not measured. It's an estimate from your electricity bill, for instance. But equally shared goals and the scope 3 emissions, which are indirect emissions produced by the supply chain, and on the other hand, your clients, and there you have to cooperate. So no one can create scope 3 emission estimates, even estimates alone. You have to exchange data. So it's equally shared goals. We have to produce the knowledge together, and there we need exchange of information. We need systems and processes to support it.
Yeah, and as I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of course, when we are reporting this scope 1, 2, and 3, it of course affects the ESG ratings and as a result, the stock price, yes? So we are all interested in having good reporting, in having good data, so we can have good reporting and as a result, a good ESG rating. So I think it is a yes for the thesis, yes, because at some point your business is becoming my business and my business is becoming your business a bit. Yep, I think. Right, but let's say we are about to launch this scope 1, 2, and 3 framework, and we have our data stakeholders, and these data stakeholders are quite aware of this framework. But at the very bottom level, is the data we need in place?
Yeah. That's a really good question. If the data is there, yes. If we are happy with approximations and estimates, and we have to do something to get the first level understanding of it, that is increasingly available. But the direct answer is that the data is not there fully yet. And we need to work hard to create the architecture, solutions, processes, and even infrastructure to exchange those data attributes between institutions so that we can create these new data attributes needed for the reporting.
Right. But I guess it might be sometimes a challenge to collect this data, yes, especially you have to persuade someone to cooperate to deliver this data, and you have to persuade the mass target audience, yes. Maybe some tricks might be needed here, yeah. I'm thinking now maybe a practical example here, yes. For instance, Adrian, let's say you are very interesting in getting a mortgage loan for the house, yeah? And I would offer you that I'm able to help you to calculate the solar energy potential on your roof and offer you a good loan. But in exchange for that, I would like you to make a commitment that you would deliver me some data on CO2 emission, let's say on a quarterly basis. Yeah. Would such an offer be okay for you, attractive for you?
Yeah, I like this idea, Ola. This could be really quite interesting, couldn't it? Can the market incentivize customers, right? And of course, the answer to that is yes, they can. So we could see products in the market from our financial services companies that incentivize either data sharing or incentivize good behavior. So you could have, say, as you said, a mortgage offer could be a reduced price if you committed to solar panels on your roof, for example. That could be interesting, and of course sharing the data with the mortgage provider. And then of course you could have, say, your insurer for your house insurance. If you supplied your house with renewable energy, the house insurance could be a lower premium, and we could incentivize good behavior by discounted products that were tied to sustainable behavior by end customers, and of course, to your point, Ola, the sharing of that data back, right? And that would cover sort of scope 3. So this is fascinating. Yeah, so I could see the market move to these kinds of products, right?
Yeah. So I think that these data challenges can be addressed on that, but you have to be creative, and creative in a way you are doing your business, but that might be a quite interesting impact here. Okay, but let's say we are the creative people and we've covered that. I close my eyes and I imagine we are already there. We having all the data needed, able to report it wherever it is needed, internally and externally. Is that also the happy end?
Well, for an ICT company, that could be a happy end, that we have the ESG data and ESG data infrastructure. But to me, it feels like that's only a start. As Adrian said, using the data for product development and creating new business areas is possible. So this is how I see climate change opening up new markets, even towards all the stakeholders, towards if you are a listed company, all the investors are interested in ESG compatible, ESG efficient firms that resolve climate crisis. You can create new products to your clients, and then you can provide that information to your subcontractors and clients even. Room for new services based on the data, but then you can start transforming your traditional products and services, and that is a huge opportunity for growth. And if you can use best possible data to create those products and services, then you are growing actually your business together with your stakeholders.
Yeah, great. So that's like another yes for the general thesis. Yes, once we will do the effort collecting all this ESG data, we can all benefit from it, and based on that grow our businesses. Yes, so that's I like this. I have to say I like this idea very much. But there is one thing that bothers me here. All you are saying, meaning we will have to adjust or launch totally new processes to be able to collect data, to validate it, to store it, exchange it, and as I understand what you are saying, to analyze it, possibly using advanced analytics. That needs like massive storage and, let's admit, quite significant compute power. So the question here would be, can you label yourself or your organization as green when you use so much power to be able to process and store this massive data loads? Adrian, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Ola, and thanks, Atso, for that great section on the data itself. I think that question, Ola, to someone who works for Equinix has a huge significance. I think if you are Equinix, you must understand that there is a responsibility. We are a data center company. We are a huge consumer of power. We have a very large and significant footprint on power usage. So with that activity comes huge responsibility, and I'm really pleased that I work for Equinix, because I see from the very, very top, from our CEO all the way through the organization, coming down this drive towards sustainability, and Equinix itself is moving forward as rapidly as it can to achieve sustainability goals around neutrality and 100% renewable energy. These goals are in place. But the pressure for Equinix to manage that responsibility doesn't just come from the CEO down, it also comes from the employees. We all want to work for a company that is responsible as well. So there is pressure from us, from me, back in towards Equinix to do more and move faster. And of course, the other element that we're seeing is the demand from the market. And of course, this is really significant. We are seeing demand from our customers to achieve sustainability goals, to attract business to Equinix. If we cannot help a customer achieve their sustainability goals, then we are not attractive to them. And this is the same for Equinix as it is for the public clouds as well. Anyone who operates data centers has a responsibility and must rise to the challenge of that, but also is responding to pressure from customers as well. Just out of interest, Equinix discloses voluntarily, to Atso's point, Scope 1 and Scope 2 on our website, sustainability.equinix.com, and we've been doing that for years, and that's very important to get that data public and to share that. So this then leads on to the start of the podcast, where I said Equinix is seeing demand from customers and questions which are basically stating, how can I, as a customer, achieve sustainability goals by moving workloads from my data centers to Equinix and public cloud? And Equinix is a co-location provider that links and delivers environments for hybrid, multi-cloud, supporting digital transformation. It's very important for us to be able to help with sustainability as well. So there's a few elements of that I wanted to discuss today. The first is the data center themselves, the building. Equinix is an expert in building data centers. We build data centers to be as efficient as possible with their power usage. There is an industry measurement called power usage effectiveness, PUE. It's a ratio that measures the power that comes into the building, supplied to customers' equipment, and the power that is consumed. And if that ratio is closer to 1, then you are very, very efficient. What we see typically is a customer's own data centers will have a PUE rating of maybe 2 or 3. If you move to Equinix, we have an average PUE across all of our data centers of 1.51, and the more modern ones that we are building today are much lower than that, probably 1.45. And we're constantly investing and innovating to lower that ratio so that the power consumption that we have is as efficient as possible. So that's a dimension that can directly be measured by an end customer and be a benefit and a target towards sustainability goals. Secondly, renewable energy. Equinix, where it can, will put 100% renewable energy into our data centers. That means hundreds of our data centers around the world are already using 100% renewable energy. So where we can do that, we will. Now, there's some markets we can't do that because of the local market conditions, but wherever we can, we are doing that. Again, there's a huge advantage there. This allows an end customer to see a difference, how their power for their existing data centers is generated, moving to Equinix to a fully renewable supply, and therefore achieving sustainability goals from that dimension as well. The third dimension that I wanted to talk about is the hardware itself. So typically, a financial services institution with its own data centers will have stacks of compute, storage, and networking gear. And that gear is bought and depreciated over many, many years, and it's built into silos. Well, what we are seeing is a drive towards hyper-converged infrastructure. This is basically software-defined compute, storage, and networking all together that runs on maybe bare metal as a service at Equinix. This hyper-converged infrastructure automatically scales. So what we can see here is that you can basically compare a workload running in your own data center on traditional IT infrastructure, compare that to what you would need to run that in a hyper-converged environment, and you will see that the amount of hardware that you need, the footprint of that service will be drastically reduced. It will be more efficient and therefore use less power. So if you start putting all these dimensions together, plus this, Ola, to the to your sort of guide here about redefining ESG, this is all about partnerships and working together. So the end customer working with Equinix, working with a hyper-converged partner, maybe someone like a Nutanix or a VMware, working with as a service, so using maybe bare metal as a service, where the partner who runs that service is looking at the circular economy and recycling the hardware. You start adding all these dimensions together, plus put it into an Equinix data center connected into the public cloud. What you get is a business case that not only shows you that you can modernize your infrastructure to get all the benefits of digital transformation, not only to get cost savings, but you get a business case that also allows you to demonstrate how you can achieve sustainability goals with that migration. And that is very, very powerful. And as I said, this is becoming the discussion, the primary discussion we are leading with many of the FIs that we're working with around the world today.
Thank you, Adrian. That was really interesting. And yeah, I agree. I totally agree that this is generally yes for our thesis of our today episodes here, that in these days you have to choose wisely who you are cooperating with, yes, because the greener your providers, your suppliers are, the more greener you are becoming as well. Yes, so that's quite important who you are dealing with. Yeah, you've mentioned cloud. Is that a cherry on top here?
Yeah, good question. So, equally shared goal is the theme for the podcast, Ola. And yes, I think absolutely the public cloud have a responsibility, as well as data center providers, to run sustainable operations, and in many ways they lead the way here. And this means that a modernization program for a financial services business to move to co-location with Equinix, which is a hybrid multi-cloud environment using the big public clouds as well. All of that together, you put all of those ingredients together, managed services providers, HCI providers, ISVs, public cloud, co-location provider like Equinix, wrap all that together, that's your cake. And yes, the cherry on the top could well be the public clouds, because all of this together, not only does it support digital transformation, but also the achievement of ESG goals as well.
Yeah, right now when I think of it, cloud, that it's very deep core is around the idea of sharing, yes, the hardware, the storage, the compute power, security mechanisms, professional support. So yeah, it would be quite hard to say it does not fit in this delivering shared goals concept. Yes. Okay, well, guys, I'm afraid our time is almost up. Thank you very much. That was very interesting. And I think we have managed to confirm our thesis, yes, that ESG can be perceived as equally shared goal in terms of necessity to join our forces to achieve it. Yep. However, if any of our listeners has any doubts or would like to take the opportunity to challenge it, just please join us or our next event. Thank you again. That was a great discussion. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Atso.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Pleasure to be here, and thanks for inviting me on.
Great. So thank you again. And what can I say? May the green power be with you.